everyone! I'm glad to be back with a new illustration for you guys after taking last week off. I drew too much with bad posture and my body decided that it was finally time to punish me for that. So that is why I wasn't drawing very much last week, but I'm feeling right as rain now, and I'm also feeling particularly ambitious. So I've gone ahead and kind of sketched out a full illustration with like a background and everything and sort of an action pose as well. I did a little poll and you guys said you wanted a cool illustration, so I hope that this will deliver on that for you. For a while, these two characters were really sort of front and center in my brain, but I've kind of had them on the back burner for a little bit. I've been preoccupied with other endeavors, but they've still been sort of lurking at the back of my mind. I'm really figuring out the world building around them and haven't spent a lot of time on that yet, but the fellow that's closest to the frame here is Peter, and he is, as you may be able to tell, an elf. I also am kind of playing with the idea of him being a spy or something like that. I haven't totally figured out his whole deal. When I first made him, I was actually RPing with a friend on a Roblox game, and so basically I was like, oh, okay, I'll make him like a little elf because this is like a fantasy role play, and so he is kind of like a foreign noble who's come to the country that he's currently in due to sort of, I think, like disease and war that's happening in his home country. And at one point he was fighting a duel and then he made a deal with a witch, but he didn't want to die. And then so like the witch took his heart and she has it in a jar in her witch's hut or something. And so he's kind of unkillable because of that. You'd have to like get his heart in order to kill him. So that's his situation. And then the larger fellow in the back is my OC William. I've had him for so long and I've put him in so many different like universes and situations that he's quite malleable. Initially, when I first made him, he was the admiral of a navy in a world with like dragons and cool power swords and stuff. So I've kind of been playing around with the idea of him maybe being like a cavalry officer instead of a naval officer, because I thought it would be kind of cool to have a setting where there are like dragons in a kind of like cavalry role, kind of like Pegasus or like Dragon Knights, I think they're called in Fire Emblem. I haven't really played Fire Emblem, but I think I would like them, so they're on my list. Eventually I'll get around to them. But anyway, so these two characters initially didn't really have anything to do with each other when I made them, but I think that they will play off each other really well, and so I've been trying to kind of think up like a story for them. I want them to kind of get thrown together because they're being made to work together for a common goal, even though they really don't like each other at first, and I want them to kind of have like an enemies to lovers thing going on because I'm sick and twisted, and I just think that would be really fun. So yeah, so with that in mind, this is kind of like supposed to be like a quote-unquote friendly fight between the two of them that I think winds up getting pretty heated. I think that like William probably insinuated that he was a better swordsman than Peter, and Peter resented that and challenged him to a duel because, you know, it's kind of like, oh, well, if you think you're so good, then why don't you beat me? And I think this particular fight, Peter is going to win. I think like up to this point in their story, I imagine like Peter has probably been very gentlemanly, maybe a little bit foppish, and kind of generally like very non-threatening. So this is kind of like the point in the story where he's able to kind of like show off his abilities and impress William a little bit. And I think it's sort of like the start of a begrudging respect between the two of them that starts to kind of blossom here. Unrelated to the piece, I have been so busy this week. I had like 4 job interviews and I lost my current job and then I got another one, and it's kind of been just like a complete whirlwind, and I don't really want to get too into like my personal life, so I won't, but it's just been like crazy. Also, I went to this really awesome local book fair and I bought a whole box full of books for like $26. It's so amazing. And I went with some of my lovely friends, and there were a couple books that we found where there were like 3 copies of them. So we're gonna do a little book club, and I'm very excited about it. One of them is like a historical romance, and the other one is this like very interesting looking medieval mystery novel. It's quite short. So we'll see how those are. The romance novel is actually quite like thick. A thick book, lots of pages. I set a goal for myself for this year to try to read 12 books, so like basically 1 a month, and I'm currently 2 books behind schedule. I'm hoping that like this book club situation and the other books that I got will kind of help me get up to the 12 total. I have a really bad habit of picking up books that are like 800 pages long and then never finishing them because like I lose interest, or I've decided like, oh, I want to read this other thing instead right now, because I can be quite impulsive with like what I read, and then I never end up going back, and now I just have like an 800-page book that I'm halfway through and I haven't read it in like a year and I don't remember what happened, but I don't want to go back because it's 800 pages. So then I never end up finishing them, and that sucks. So I've been trying to pick up kind of like shorter and punchier books that maybe I don't want to say I don't care about as much, but like then I'm not like, oh, I know I have to read this one because I'm really gonna like it. Like books that are kind of like, it's pretty cool. And also I've been trying to like read books that will help me kind of like solidify my own creative ideas. So like I've been reading a lot of books about kind of like old-timey supernatural detective fiction stories, and a lot of them are not very good, but that's okay. I'm reading them for research. And then also I've been getting into a lot of like Napoleonic historical fiction, because those are 2 things that I'm kind of like interested in writing about myself, and I want to be more familiar with the genres when I do that. Yeah, I really like talking about what I've been reading. I kind of had the idea to do like a series of videos, I should say, where I do an illustration for each book that I've been reading, and then I can kind of like do a little review as well, but we'll see. We'll see how inspired I am to do that in the long run, or if I get around to it, but I think it would be like a fun project, and it's very easy for me to like be reading a book and think, oh, this scene is so cool, like I would love to draw it, but I never do. So maybe I should. I think I probably should. So back to the actual art, because I think that's enough about my personal life and the books that I'm reading. But for this illustration, I did force myself to include a full background. I really want to be able to draw backgrounds and interiors, especially, like it's no big deal. I think that when I'm working on like comics and more narrative art in general, I think obviously drawing and interiors will be like a pretty essential skill to have. And for this particular piece, I was inspired by some of the book illustrations done by Vladimir Panov, I think is how you say his name. I'll stick some of those up on the screen for you, but they're just such wonderful illustrations, and they have these lovely rich colors and really like deceptively simple figures. I don't know, I find them really, really like enchanting, and I wanted to capture a bit of that somehow in my illustration here, even though I don't know how well I was able to do it. I'm not really much of a painter because painting drives me up the wall, but I tried to keep kind of like the colors that he uses in mind while picking the colors for this illustration. And I haven't done any work with color, at least not digitally, in like a few months, so this was also kind of daunting. I don't really know how to work with color very well. I find it quite intimidating, and I'm trying to kind of force myself to experiment with it more in my work until I get a better feel for it. But I think this turned out really okay. I think using some of Panov's paintings as a reference and kind of drawing the colors from a couple paintings from the same story, like the illustrations are for the same novel, really helped because they're quite cohesive, and so like using them here made my own piece look quite cohesive. So yeah, I'll insert those pictures if I haven't already. And I think it turned out pretty good. I think it looks all right. I also forgot to record while I was doing like the shading on this piece, but I tried to keep all of that pretty simple. I think just giving like the suggestion of lighting without it becoming distracting was kind of like my goal here. I am kind of like afraid of really dark shadows, but I also don't think that this particular piece, dark shadows, would really have been like appropriate. It's the daytime and it's like indoors, so there's lots of lighting around, so it wouldn't be that dramatic anyway. I wasn't really sure how to do like the spot, I don't know what to call them, like the cast shadows of the figures. I probably should have gotten some reference for these, but I just kind of like did my best. I don't know how accurate they are, and so yeah, it's sort of an interpretive shadow. But basically I was trying to keep in mind that like, okay, there's light coming from the windows, there's probably like a chandelier or like a light overhead in some manner, so the shadows are going to be really like isolated to just kind of like the opposite side, like their right hand side, my right hand side in the picture, and then like underneath. So just tried to keep it pretty simple. I'm definitely in kind of like an experimental era as far as like color and shadow goes with my art, and trying to figure out like how I want to approach it and what I like and don't like in my own art. So yeah, I think this was pretty successful. You'll see it at the end once it's all finished, because like I said, I forgot to record it, but I really like the way that I did the light coming in through the windows on like the polished wood floors. I think it turned out pretty good. I really like that part. The rest of it is like, yeah, it's pretty good. So yeah, I think ultimately like this illustration was really successful, and I'm pretty like proud of myself for actually completing a full illustration for once. So yeah. And that's pretty much it. Like I said, I'm pretty proud of how it turned out, and I'd really like to do more stuff like this soon. I think that the rest of this month is also going to be pretty chaotic for me. I don't know how consistent I'll be with posting longer videos. I have something coming up next weekend, and so I don't know if I'll have a video for next Monday, at least not like a long form video, even though I would really like to have one. But after that, I think I'll be able to be posting more consistently again. So thank you very much for bearing with me. And thank you also for watching this far. If you have, I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great week, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye!